Your community, your family, your work needs the best version of you. And if you're discontent, if you're angry, you will not bring the very best version of you to any space. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the New Rules Podcast. It's your boy, Adrian, here, and I'm excited that you've joined us today. Whether if you're at home, just washing dishes, maybe you're on your way to work, maybe you're working out, it's an honor that you actually would join us today. And so here at New Rules, we really have this one simple mission is to unlock authenticity. We believe that authenticity leads to human flourishing, and we believe the more authentic leaders that are actually launched into the world, the more flourishing can actually happen all throughout the world and in different communities. And so that is why we're here. That is why we exist. And so I also want to encourage you that if you are liking the pod, please make sure you like, you subscribe, you share, leave a comment, share it on your social media platforms, maybe in your Instagram story or whatever. Leave me a comment. Again, I would love to know who's all in the New Rules community. With that being said, we're going to jump into one of my favorite parts, air it out. In this moment, I just air out what I'm really thinking. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's negative. Today, it's positive vibes. Adrian, he is in the building. And I want to tell you about one of my favorite restaurants out there. Now, when I say this restaurant, I don't want you to judge me, okay? I don't want you to, with those judgmental eyes or those judgmental ears that wherever you're listening to the pod or watching the pod, I don't want you judging me. I actually want you to kind of just take a moment and listen to what I'm saying, because it is one of the best restaurants out there. That restaurant is Chicken Salad Chick. Yep, I said it. Chicken Salad Chick. Me and all the 40-year-old white suburban moms are in Chicken Salad Chick. And I go in there, I am proud. I go in there with my graphic tees on. I go in there with my J's on. Only black man half the time in there, unless they're actually working in there. But I don't care. I go to Chicken Salad Chick, and I go with the basic. I'm like Klay Thompson there. I don't get crazy with the spicy stuff or the weird flavors. I go with Olivia's Old South, like Klay Thompson's jump shot, buckets, corner threes, one dribble pull-ups. That's what I do, Olivia's Old South. But here's the secret. And when you do this, I want you to let your boy know. Go there, and here's the drink you need to get. Get you a large, put about a quart of ice in there. And you need to do this. Pomegranate vitamin water and lemonade. You need to mix those together. I promise you, it is the juice of the gods. Jesus turned water into wine, but maybe Jesus turned water into this mixture of drink, because that's how much it's busting, all right? You need to go there, get the vitamin water, lemonade mix, Chicken Salad Chick. Hey, anybody listen to the pod who works at Chicken Salad Chick or you work in corporate, let's do an exchange. I'll promote all day. I don't need no money, no bread required. I just need product. Like the dope man, give your boy product, and I'll keep pushing Chicken Salad Chick out there to the world. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what does it mean to win. And if I'm being honest, this is a very hard episode for me to actually deliver, because this is something I struggle with all the time. I feel like the goalpost keeps moving. I feel like that I'm not satisfied because I am trying to get to a place, but I have not defined actually what that place means. What does that place look like? What does it mean for me to win? How many points do I have to put on the board? What game am I actually playing? What score are we keeping? If I would have told myself 5 years ago that I would be in the place that I'm at right now, I would have been through the roof. With a business doing the numbers that they're doing, with other things being launched and started, a church growing, my family in a really good place, I would have been so excited about where I was at. But now I'm here, and I still find myself discontent. I find myself always wrestling about what's next. See, but here's the truth. There's some real emotions behind that. I actually want to make a huge impact with this life that I have. And so the emotions that I'm wrestling with, some of them are valid, but see, it never seems to be satisfied. I'm always moving. And here's what, I always forget what my scoreboard is. See, we all have a scoreboard. Now, most of us, our scoreboard's invisible. It's the thing behind you. It's the thing pushing you. It's the thing that you are constantly feeling like you're not in the right place, that you feel like when I get here, if I get that new job, if I get that promotion, I get married, I get the house, we have kids or whatever it is, that once I get there, I have enough in my savings account, I'm going to be okay that I finally got there. And then we get there and we're looking for the next there and we're not satisfied. And we're living in a culture right now where no one is really satisfied. We're all just struggling and discontent. And we're all thinking we're failing in life. But if we're honest, we don't even know what the scoreboard is. We don't even know how to keep score. We don't sometimes even know the rules of the game that we're playing, but yet and still, it's making us so frustrated, so angry. It's making us face depression in a different way because we actually don't know what the scoreboard is. Can you imagine actually going to a sporting event and not having a score? Well, I know some of you who maybe listen to pod or you have young kids that are playing them bummy leagues that don't keep score of the game. And I have a whole lot of thoughts about that. I won't use that platform. I won't use this platform right now to actually talk about that. But can you imagine going to a professional sporting event? A professional sporting event, and there was no scoreboard. We had no idea what the score was, how they scored the game, or who actually won. We would be frustrated, we'd be mad, and let me tell you, the actual game would lose its allure because you want your team to win, and you want to know if your team won or if your team lost. Our life is the most important thing. We have one shot at this, and very few people actually have a measuring stick to if they're winning. We expect this in sports. We expect this in business. Businesses want to know, man, are we winning? Did we hit our KPIs? What was our annual gross sales? Is our stock price up? Maybe that's how they measure their success. And so they have measurables, but in our own lives, we have no measurables. But yet and still, we feel like we are failing. And many times we feel like we're failing because we're looking at everyone else. We're looking at somebody else's life. We're looking at somebody else's scoreboard. You're looking at that colleague who you came in at the same time, and all of a sudden now you look at their Instagram, you look at their TikTok, and they're traveling a lot, or you see the new house or the new car they bought. You're paying off debt from going to school, but you don't know their story. You don't know that maybe they had a parent who paid for them. Maybe they got scholarships. And so you're trying to compare where you're at compared to them. They're playing their game, but you're trying to measure your life, and I'm trying to measure my life based off other people. I love the internet and I love social media, but social media has created this thing of comparison where we have access to everyone else and we look and we compare. And what we do is we try to measure our lives based off of them. We should never measure our lives off another person. There is a game that you're playing. There's a game that I am playing, and we've got to figure out what that scoreboard is. Scoreboards are incredibly, incredibly important. They've been around forever. I mean, they were around in the Greco-Roman games. I mean, you remember here in this country, when they first started playing baseball, they had the wooden signs. They still have it at Fenway Park where you could keep balls and strikes and actually see the score of the game. And in 1908, a guy by the name of George Beard, I believe, was the one who created the first electronic scoreboard. And he made the scoreboard, and it actually took off. But I want you to think about this. Can you imagine if you had a scoreboard of a soccer game, but they were keeping score like it was a basketball game? They brought a basketball scoreboard to a soccer match, or you bought a soccer scoreboard to a football game. We would be so confused because we wouldn't even understand the context. And that's how some of us operate. We're supposed to be playing soccer, but we're measuring our life off a basketball score. And so we have the wrong scoreboard. And because we have the wrong scoreboard, that's where the discontent happened. See, context matters when it comes to your scoreboard. I think of this. Growing up, I grew up in the era where MTV really took off. Now, I know for some of you who are Gen Z listening to this, you're like, yo, old man, MTV, what is that? All you know about MTV is ridiculousness with Rob Dyrdek. That's about it, all right? You don't understand the great show of Yo MTV Raps. You don't understand the real world. I'm talking about real stuff that mold and shape us. We got it out the mud on MTV.
I get it out the mud. Yeah. I get it out the mud.
Now, MTV came out with this incredible thing called Rock and Jock. Rock and Jock was a celebrity game. And so they had Rock and Jock softball. But my favorite was in 1991, they had Rock and Jock basketball. It was at Loyola Marymount. Now, Rock and Jock basketball, in these games, consist of two teams with some sports stars and with some movie stars, rappers, and pop stars, so on and so forth. Now, like some of the teams had guys like Mark Wahlberg, who was known as Marky Mark back in the day. If you remember Family Matters, Urkel, he was on one of the teams. Another team had Will Smith, Magic Johnson. And so this Rock and Jock basketball game was a big thing. Now, the first Rock and Jock basketball game, the score was 180 to 173. Now, if you know anything about basketball, that's a lot of points. And so if you didn't know any context of the game, you would think the NBA dudes shot every last basketball, made every shot, and those bummy pop stars and movie stars didn't touch the ball. But that wasn't the case. It was a high score because they had 50-point shots, 25-point shots, 10-point shots. So now the context of the game impacted the scoreboard. And so here's why I tell you that story, is that's how it is for us. We have to understand the rules of the game, the points of our life and game, so that we can create a scoreboard that fits us. This is so vital. It's vital for you. It's vital for your family. It's vital for you at work. It's vital for your community. Because your community, your family, your work needs the best version of you. And if you're discontent, if you're angry, if you're in life constantly don't feel like you measure up, you will not bring the very best version of you to any space. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now, is how do we actually build a proper scoreboard for our life? The first thing is this: you got to have radical candor. One thing you're going to learn about this podcast, learn about me, I'm always going to make us start off by looking within. Because deep within, you find the problems, but you also find the solutions. This idea of radical candor means to be radically honest with yourself, but also giving yourself compassion, giving yourself empathy, to be able to look deep within and to be honest about the things, the feelings, the motives that are driving you, but also not judging yourself. Another way we say it, be curious and compassionate. Now, what we need to have radical candor about is really what matters to us. You have things right now that you're measuring your life off of. Now, I am not saying, we're going to get to this in a minute, those things are actually good for you, but you actually have to have a starting point of actually how you're measuring your life. Are you measuring your life right now off of, listen, you like Drake, so you're measuring your life off of money, cash, clothes, and hoes. That's it.
More money, more cash, more money, more.
That is how you are measuring your life. If I got that, then I'm successful.
Yeah, I want the money in the cars in the clothes.
I'm not going to try to sing like Trey Songz, all right?
I just want to be successful.
But here's the thing. You need to be honest about that. Quit lying to yourself. You keep trying to make yourself to be a more moral person or a more virtuistic person than you actually are right now. If that's what matters to you, then say it, because you can't go anywhere until you're honest. Maybe for some of you, the success of your children, that actually is your scoreboard. That if your children have success in school, if you are one of those parents who can put the bumper sticker on the back of the whip, which I have never understood how you would mess up a paint job just to put a bumper sticker on it.
Honey, would you put a bumper sticker on a Bentley?
But whatever, that's your deal, okay? My wife does it. I love her to death. But I ain't messing up no paint job for no bumper sticker. But moving on from there, maybe that's what you care about. Maybe that's how you're measuring it. It's important that we take this invisible scoreboard and bring it to the forefront. Maybe it's the accolades. It's the job. It's the person you're with. That if I get this certain type of person, then I've actually made it, and now you're measuring your life. You have to start with radical candor. One of my favorite documentaries is The Last Dance. I grew up a huge Chicago Bulls fan, Michael Jordan fan. And in The Last Dance, there's this scene in this moment where Michael Jordan gets incredibly emotional. And he gets emotional because people are talking about him being a tyrant as a leader. And right now I'm going to show you actually what Michael said.
You ask all my teammates, the one thing about Michael Jordan was he never asked me to do something that he didn't do. When people see this, they're going to say, well, he wasn't really a nice guy. He may have been a tyrant. Oh, well, that's you. Because you never won anything. I wanted to win, but I wanted them to win and be a part of that as well. Like, I don't have to do this. I'm only doing it because it is who I am. That's how I played the game. That was my mentality. If you don't want to play that way, don't play that way.
The one thing I appreciate about Michael is this in this clip, that he was honest. Now, you may not agree with him, and you may not agree with his level and style of leadership, but what you had to respect, one of his scoreboards was to win. Now, when you talk to anyone who knows Michael Jordan, they will tell you he's one of the most competitive people that you'll ever meet. Whether if it's golf, if it's playing cards, it does not matter. He's incredibly competitive. He wants to win at everything he does. That is a value of his. That is a way that he measures his life. That is part of his scoreboard. I want to ask, do you have a conviction like that? Are you willing to be that honest? Are you willing to say what you measure your life by? Are you willing to put that on Front Street? Or do you hide behind things like a coward because you're afraid of what everyone else says? Maybe people in your group will think differently about you if you actually put out there how you measure your life. You have to be radically candid so that we can move forward. The second thing you have to do is this: scoreboard valuation. Now, when someone wants to know what their company is worth, they do a valuation. What a valuation is this: they actually go in and they measure every part of your company to see its actual worth. I had my first company that I sold, and before I sold it, I had someone come in and do a valuation on it. And I'm very thankful that they did that, because what I actually thought it was worth was actually lower than what I sold it for. But I had to have an expert come in to evaluate where my company was at. You need to now do an evaluation of your scoreboard. See, this is when we really get to it. Because I wanted you to have radical candor, now what we have to do is actually see if our scoreboard measures up. The first thing you have to look at, does it measure up to your skill set? So, for example, if one of the things on your scoreboard is to be a multimillionaire who has sold 5 or 6 or 7 companies, but you have never shown the proclivity or the ability to sell things or to lead a company or to have an entrepreneurial spirit, then that's probably a bad scoreboard. That's not a great valuation for you. Now, you may look at your life and say, listen, I want to be a teacher. I actually want to measure my life based off of the lives I've impacted, the people I've taught. And you have shown the skill set to be a good teacher. That is a good scoreboard. Your scoreboard has to line up with your skill set. So many times in life, I see people go and their scoreboard doesn't line up with their skill set. They're chasing something that they're never going to be good at. And they may get a little bit of success, but if they would pivot their attention to something else, they would spend so much time making way more impact than that. You see it a lot in athletics. You see, especially, I'm a basketball guy. You see it in basketball. When you see a guy like a Steph Curry, or you see a guy like a Kevin Durant, or I mentioned earlier, Klay Thompson, these are guys who know their skill set and they measure their game based off of their skill set. So what is that for you? What is your skill set? Do you know that? And if you do, make sure that your scoreboard lines up with your skill set. Here's the other thing that we have to do to get a good valuation. Values. Values give us boundaries. They keep us in play. Values are the things that lead and guide our lives. So when you're looking at your scoreboard, does it line up with your values? It is important in your life that your scoreboard actually come in line with the values that you actually have. So many people in life never really understand values, so they never can have a proper scoreboard. But actually, when they understand their values, they decide to have a scoreboard that goes completely against that. A value of mine is empowerment. I have to measure my life and my scoreboard based off of those who are eating because of what I created. I want to see people who work for me go out there and be launched into what they're called to do. So I love creating spaces that allow others to actually walk into what they're called to that they couldn't have done on their own. And so when I look at my life, I have to measure that and put a number on, man, how many people have I empowered? How many people's lives have changed? How many people are walking into their calling? How many people's families are being impacted? Their kids now are walking into their calling because of something I created. A way I can mess that up is I can make it to where how I value my life is by how much money, how many companies I have started, the things only personally I have done, and never have a measurement of the value of empowerment. So though there's nothing wrong with wanting to start a bunch of stuff or having a bunch of money or having personal success, if that's the scoreboard of my life, then I've missed it because it doesn't line up to my value. So what are your values? We've talked about that. You can go back to other episodes and listen to find out how you actually discover your values. But your values have to be in line with actually your scoreboard. And here's the final thing to do a proper valuation is, does it pass the legacy check? Does it pass the legacy check? Here's what I mean, and this is when we're going to get raw and uncut with it. If your scoreboard is all about you, your life will suck and it will make no impact. And here's what I mean by suck. You may have personal success, you may have whatever, but it really will be a life that sucked. It'll be a waste of time. I think people who spend their lives solely focused only on themselves, what they can get, and it doesn't leave a legacy, meaning that when they die, no one will ever know or think about you again. That means you don't pass the legacy check at all because your life is about you. And that is the most shallow way any person can live. We spend so much time today just thinking about us. But you begin to get free in life when you begin to build your life based off what you can do for others. So that when your life is over, it is such a long line. It is generation upon generation that are impacted because it passed the legacy check. I live in the wake of men who passed the legacy check, who fought through slavery, who lived through Jim Crow, who lived through barriers to try to fight through in order for me to do it. And their lives are still echoing. You are all feeling the echo of the lives of others who passed the legacy check. Does your life pass that? Or do you just think about yourself? And in a world where everyone's talking about authenticity, they talk about authenticity only to discover self, so self can be fine, but not to impact others. Authenticity is not found thinking just about you. Yes, you have to look within, but you're looking within so that you can go out. I have to stress this. Stop being a selfish human that just thinks about yourself. When you begin to think about others, life and impact and satisfaction happens. I find such great satisfaction in my life when I'm living in a way to bless, living in a way to live, living in a way that impacts others. I have a goal this year that I want to see well over half of my days where I like to call get empty, where I'm living my days where I can honestly look at it and say, I gave way more than I took in. Does it pass the legacy check? That's one of the most important things you can do in actually evaluating your scoreboard. And here's the third and final thing. Just write it down. This is going to be a simple, quick thing, but write it down. Write down what your scoreboard is. What matters to you at the end of your life? That when you sit there on your deathbed, what would matter to say you can look back and say, I won? It's nothing wrong with saying, man, you want to make wealth, but you want to make wealth because, man, not only for the impact for your family, but those around you, and also for generations to come. Write that down. It's nothing wrong to say, man, the things you want to launch and start, write that down. It's nothing wrong to say, man, a mark of my life is going to be the impact that my children make or what I did with my family. Man, a mark of my life is going to be maybe how you lived your faith out. Write that down. How do you measure your life? Write it down. And once you write it down, put it somewhere where you can constantly see it, because you're going to go on Instagram, you're going to go on TikTok, you're going to go on YouTube, and you're going to see others, or you're going to go on Facebook, who's still on Facebook, or you're going to go on LinkedIn, and you're going to see other people flourishing and living their life according to their scoreboard, and you're going to try to compare. You need to keep your scoreboard in front of you. I end on this. I play point guard, and one of the things that my coach constantly told me was this. As a point guard, which is the person who was leading the team, you were what they call the extension of the head coach on the floor. He always told me, you need to know time and score. I need to always know the scoreboard. That is my responsibility, because if I knew the scoreboard, I knew how to run the team. You need to know your scoreboard so you know how to run your life. Until next time, keep writing new rules.